My parents chose my sister over me, and instantly regretted it when she turned the vacation into a nightmare of lies, drama, and complete emotional destruction. So, here's how this whole thing started. My parents planned a family vacation last summer, right around when I was finishing a grueling semester in college. I'd been mentally and emotionally wrung out, no sleep, final projects stacked sky high, and honestly, I was just looking forward to getting away with my family. I even rearranged a part-time job I'd picked up just so I'd be free during the trip. That's when the bomb dropped. One evening, I came downstairs and saw my sister practically buzzing with excitement. She's younger than me, by 2 years, and let's just say, not exactly a scholar or a saint. We'll call her Emily to spare the internet her real name. She's the kind of person who thinks Instagram captions are literature and whose entire moral compass rotates around being the center of attention. My parents were sitting at the table with her, and everyone looked like they were about to announce a pregnancy or win the lottery. And they did, except the only thing pregnant was my disappointment. "We're taking a trip next week," my mom said. "Just a little getaway for the 3 of us. You know, something light. Emily's been stressed lately too." I just stared at them. The 3 of us. I was the missing puzzle piece. Apparently, they felt Emily needed a break because she was dealing with a lot emotionally. Which is code in our house for, she got dumped by some guy who thought SpongeBob memes were too mature for him. That girl has been emotionally recovering from one situation or another since puberty. Meanwhile, I'm out here burning out like an overworked candle wick, and I'm the one who gets left behind. At first, I said nothing. I just nodded, walked back upstairs, and silently unbooked the vacation days I'd saved. I even took on extra shifts at work that week because, you know, might as well earn some cash while being emotionally discarded. And I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. The real story began once they came back. Apparently, paradise turned to pandemonium. Emily had ruined the trip, and I don't mean minor drama, I mean full-on reality TV level chaos. First, she started by flirting with some guy in the resort lobby, who turned out to be married. When his actual wife showed up yelling, Emily tried to lie her way out of it by saying she didn't know he was married, even though she literally bragged to our mom the night before that the ring on his finger didn't match the confidence in his eyes. Then there was the pool incident. Apparently, there was a "no glassware" sign clearly posted by the hot tub. Emily decided that didn't apply to her and brought a glass of sangria into the water anyway. She slipped, because of course she did, and shattered the glass, cutting her leg open in the process. Resort staff had to shut the hot tub down for hours to clean the mess and sanitize everything. My dad nearly had a panic attack watching the bill for damages rack up in real time. But the piece de resistance. She screamed at my mom in the middle of a beach restaurant because they wouldn't let her order another cocktail after she'd already had 3 and started slurring her words. Screamed. Full-blown meltdown. Cursed at her. Said she was the worst mom ever, and told her she wished she'd never been born into this pathetic, broke family. I swear, the waitress wrote WTF on the bill. That's the moment things changed. Suddenly, my parents looked like someone had unplugged their brains and rebooted them with actual clarity. My dad later told me he didn't even recognize his own daughter in that moment. My mom just kept crying and whispering, "I didn't raise her like this." No, but they enabled her like this. When they got home, they sat me down. And for the first time in my adult life, they actually apologized. They said, "We should have taken you instead. We messed up. We see that now." I wanted to say something kind. Something mature. But all that came out was, "I know." And I walked away. Because I do know. They let her lie. They let her get away with everything. They turned a blind eye while she acted like a bratty little queen ruling over a kingdom of low expectations. And I was the one cleaning up after her drama, holding my tongue, shrinking myself so I didn't seem too critical. But the mask cracked. The glass shattered. And now, they see her. And I see me, clearly, finally. After the trip, my parents came home looking like they'd aged 10 years in a week. There was no excited rundown of activities, no photo reels or souvenirs. Just silence, awkward glances, and a heaviness that clung to the house like damp air before a storm. Emily, of course, didn't come home right away. She stayed an extra day with some guy she met at the resort, said he was an entrepreneur. Turns out he sold vape pens out of his car and lived with his aunt. Classic. Anyway, I didn't even plan to speak to them. I was still raw from being left behind, and part of me wanted them to sit in that discomfort for a while. But then my mom knocked on my bedroom door. No dramatic entry. Just a soft, slow knock that sounded more like regret than anything else. She came in and sat on the edge of my bed like she used to when I was little. She looked tired. Really tired. Her eyes were puffy, and her hands were shaking slightly, clutching a coffee mug she hadn't sipped from. I didn't say anything. Just watched her. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "We should have taken you. You were right. We were wrong." And I'll admit it, part of me wanted to cry hearing that. Another part of me wanted to throw the mug across the room and scream. But instead, I just nodded. My dad joined us a few minutes later. He didn't speak right away. Just stood in the doorway like he was unsure if he was allowed to come in. Eventually, he muttered something about how the trip didn't go as planned. No kidding. They told me everything. From Emily's meltdown at dinner to the security incident with the broken glass to her faking a panic attack in the hotel lobby because her debit card got declined. Oh yeah, that happened too. Apparently, she told a resort staffer that she had trauma-related spending episodes and needed emotional compensation, whatever that means. At some point, my mom said the words I'd waited years to hear. We didn't want to admit it, but she's not who we thought she was. I don't know if it was a wake-up call or just a temporary slap to their rose-colored glasses, but it hit them hard. And then came the questions. You know, the ones people ask when they start noticing the fire they've been pretending wasn't spreading. Has she always lied like this? Did you know she was drinking that much? Why didn't we see it before? I didn't have the heart to say, because you didn't want to. Because every time I tried to tell them Emily was manipulative, dramatic, and lied as easily as she breathed, I was called jealous, bitter, unforgiving. I remember once I told them she faked an allergic reaction in high school to get out of gym class and got a whole 504 plan approved. They laughed. Called her resourceful. Now they were sitting in the middle of the wreckage, finally understanding that resourceful actually meant pathological. I didn't say anything cruel. I didn't gloat or say, "I told you so." But inside, I was screaming those words with every breath. A few days later, Emily came back. Walked into the house like she owned the air inside it, wearing some knockoff designer sunglasses and dragging a pink suitcase that smelled like coconut and bad decisions. The first thing she said wasn't "Hi" or "How are you?" It was, "Did you miss me?" I didn't answer. Just walked past her and went into the kitchen. From the hallway, I heard her ask Mom if she could borrow $300 for emergency car maintenance. The same car she conveniently left in my parents' driveway while she flew out with them. My mom said no. My heart stopped for a second. She said no. That had never happened before. Emily got quiet. Like, scary quiet. You could feel the air shift. She was already winding up one of her emotional grenades. You could always tell by the silence. The calm before she pulled the pin and made everything about her. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, I heard the sobbing. Loud. Performative. Oscar-worthy. She said my mom was choosing money over family, that she was being punished for existing, and then she locked herself in the bathroom and fake called someone to vent within earshot. She said she was living in a prison of expectations. That she was the black sheep and that nobody understands her soul. I swear, if it had been any more dramatic, she'd have needed a lighting crew. But this time, no one ran after her. No one knocked on the bathroom door to comfort her. No one whispered about how sensitive she is. We just let her stay in there. And that silence. That was louder than any scream she could have made. For the first time in, well, ever, Emily's act didn't work. No one came to soothe her ego. No warm tea by the bathroom door, no comforting words through the crack, no mom whispering, "She's just overwhelmed." We all stayed in our lanes and let her ride out her own storm. She came out after an hour, puffy-faced and sniffling, but still trying to look glamorous in that worn-down influencer way. She walked past me in the hallway with the dramatic sigh of someone who thinks they're in a music video. I didn't even flinch. I just kept scrolling on my phone like she was a breeze passing through, barely there. That night at dinner, the air was still tight. Dad made something simple: grilled chicken, rice, and roasted veggies. He didn't bother setting the table like he usually does. No lit candles. No wine. Just plates on placemats like we were roommates in a tense sitcom episode. Emily picked at her food and said nothing for the first 10 minutes. That alone was enough to set off alarms. She's the kind of person who can't go 5 minutes without a story about someone jealous of her or some unbelievable thing that happened at the grocery store. But that night, she was simmering in silence. Then, right as I thought maybe, just maybe, she was going to behave like a normal human being, she exploded. "You know what? I don't even care if you all hate me now," she said, stabbing a roasted carrot like it owed her money. "I can't believe you're acting like I ruined the vacation when all I did was be myself." I didn't say anything. Neither did Mom. Dad blinked once, then calmly put his fork down. "Being yourself doesn't give you a license to treat people like crap," he said, his voice way too calm to be normal. "We're done tiptoeing around your behavior." Boom. There it was. I almost choked on my broccoli. Dad, the same man who once drove an hour out of his way to bring Emily a charger she forgot, was done. She looked at him like he had slapped her across the face. "You're just mad because I wasn't boring the whole trip like you two would have been," she snapped, motioning toward me. "At least I don't live in a fantasy where I pretend to be perfect while judging everyone else." That one hit a nerve. It always does. Emily has this belief that I think I'm better than her, which is laughable because all I've ever done is mind my business and not start fires. But to her, not being dramatic is a form of passive aggression. Then she turned to Mom. "And you? You sat there and let me get screamed at by a random woman over some married guy. Like it's my fault she can't keep her man." "I didn't say a word to defend myself because I was embarrassed, Emily," Mom said sharply. "I've never been more ashamed to be your mother than I was that night." And silence fell. Just absolute silence. Even Emily looked stunned. Like she couldn't believe the script had changed. For the first time in her life, her go-to role of wounded angel wasn't getting her a damn thing. I could see the panic rise in her eyes, but she swallowed it quickly, flipping the switch like she always does. "Oh, so now I'm the villain," she muttered, pushing her chair back. "Whatever. I don't need any of you. You're all jealous because I actually have a life." And she stormed out. I waited for Mom or Dad to go after her. Neither moved. That was the first dinner we finished in peace. The days after were like living in a new dimension. Mom started making meals and not checking if Emily liked them first. Dad stopped giving her rides. They didn't announce where they were going or when they'd be back. They just stopped revolving around her. Emily, of course, didn't like that. She started doing little things. Leaving passive-aggressive notes around the house. Blasting music while I studied. Accidentally using up all the hot water right before anyone else needed a shower. At one point, she took my shampoo and filled the bottle with conditioner instead. I didn't respond. I just replaced it. But the moment I did, I noticed her watching from the hallway mirror, waiting for me to snap. When I didn't, she scoffed and went back to her room. She was cracking. Not all at once. But slowly, like glass under pressure. The power she'd always held in the house was slipping, and she didn't know how to exist without it. That weekend, I went out with some friends. First time in months I'd done something for myself without checking if Emily had plans that might conflict with mine. I came home around midnight and found Mom on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "She applied for a credit card using your name," she said without looking up. I froze. What? She didn't get far. The alert came to my email. I reported it. But yeah, she tried. Thought we wouldn't notice. I stood there for a second, heart racing, while my mom added quietly, "She's desperate." And I knew it wasn't over. Not even close. But something had changed. This time, we were ready. It was only a matter of time before Emily went from passive-aggressive to full-on sabotage. After the credit card stunt got shut down, she went quiet for a couple of days. Which, in our house, is never a good sign. Emily being quiet is like a dog hiding after chewing up your shoes, it means she's about to try something worse. And she did. She stole my car. Not borrowed without asking. Not moved it for convenience. Stole it. Took the keys out of my bag while I was in the shower, drove off without a word, and left me pacing the house wondering if I was losing my mind. At first, I thought maybe Dad had moved it. Or maybe I parked it further down the street and forgot. But then I looked around and realized my keys were gone too. That's when I knew. My phone rang 30 minutes later. It was Emily. "Hey, can you send me your insurance info real quick?" My heart dropped straight into my stomach. Apparently, she had taken my car to drive to some networking event her new job was hosting because, surprise, she told everyone she got hired as a marketing executive at some startup. Except that startup was just her friend's boyfriend's pyramid scheme disguised as a wellness brand. She drove my car 3 towns over, wearing a blazer she borrowed from Mom without asking, and on the way back, she crashed it. Rear-ended a parked truck trying to take a selfie with her caramel macchiato in one hand and the wheel in the other. She called it a freak accident. I call it textbook stupidity. I didn't say a word. I just got in Dad's car, drove to the tow yard, and signed the paperwork with clenched fists and a jaw so tight I couldn't feel my own face. Emily didn't even bother riding back with me. She took an Uber. And when she got home, she actually had the audacity to say, "You should be thanking me, now your car has character." Character. I don't remember what I said in response. Honestly, I blacked out a little from rage. But I do remember my dad stepping between us and telling her, "You're paying for this. Every cent. I don't care how." That was new. My dad never made her pay for anything before. If she burned dinner, he'd apologize for not ordering takeout. If she wrecked her grades, he'd blame the teachers. But this time, he didn't blink. Emily stared at him like he'd just grown a second head. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." She stormed upstairs, of course, slamming every door on the way like the house personally offended her. And less than 48 hours later, she tried to get back at us with one of her most elaborate lies yet. She told the entire extended family, on Facebook, no less, that she had been fired from her job because of family drama, and emotionally abused at home by toxic relatives who don't support ambitious women. She posted vague quotes, blurry selfies of her looking sad but strong, and a paragraph-long status filled with phrases like, cutting out negative energy, and breaking cycles of generational trauma. And people believed her. Cousins started messaging her with hearts. Distant aunts commented things like, "You are so brave, don't let the haters dim your light." I even had one family member DM me and ask why I was being so hard on Emily when she's clearly going through something. I didn't respond. But my mom did. Oh, my mom did. She made a post of her own, not dramatic, not angry. Just screenshots. The declined credit card application. The tow bill. A polite message that read, "Sometimes truth gets lost in noise." Just so everyone is informed. It was the digital equivalent of flipping the table. Emily lost it. She deleted her post, then came stomping down the stairs with her phone in hand, waving it around like she was casting a spell. "You're ruining my reputation." My mom, sipping tea like an ancient queen, looked at her and said, "You ruined that all by yourself." It was the first time I saw Emily truly cornered. No more tricks. No more allies. Just a girl who built her identity on drama and deception, watching it collapse around her like a cheap movie set. But she wasn't done yet. Because next. She tried to move out, but not in the way most people do. She announced she had been offered a position in another state, and was relocating for a better future. She packed 2 suitcases, left in a Lyft, and didn't answer calls for 3 days. Then we got a call from her new boss. She had used my dad as a reference, listed a fake job title, and claimed to have experience managing multi-level strategic initiatives. The man on the other end was calling to verify her background before sending her a formal offer. It was a receptionist job. My dad told him the truth. The offer was revoked. Emily came back that night with mascara streaks and a broken suitcase wheel. And that's when she finally snapped in a way none of us expected. Emily came back home like a storm without thunder, quiet, but you could feel the destruction clinging to her. She dropped her half-broken suitcase in the hallway and barely looked at any of us. No apology. No explanation. Just trudged upstairs like a ghost in designer knockoffs. The silence wasn't peace, though. It was the build-up. We all knew it. Something was coming, and when it hit, it was going to be loud. It started with a Facebook Live. I was doing laundry when I heard her shouting. Not at us, at her phone. I tiptoed down the hall, stopped just outside her room, and peeked through the barely cracked door. She had her phone propped up on a ring light, and she was pacing like a televangelist, crying on cue. "I'm so tired of being silenced," she wailed, hand clutching her chest like her own truth was trying to break out. "My family treats me like garbage just because I want more than a small-town life and a 9-to-5. I'm not going to apologize for being ambitious. I'm not going to shrink myself just to make them feel better." The comments were pouring in. Mostly strangers. Mostly encouraging. "You go, girl. Cut the haters off. They're just jealous." But she didn't stop there. She brought up me. By name. She called me bitter and basic, said I was obsessed with being perfect, and claimed I sabotaged her job opportunity out of jealousy. She even pulled out my old yearbook photo from when I had braces and read a quote I wrote about focusing on your own path. Mocked it. Mocked me. I wasn't even mad at that point. I just stood there, arms full of damp towels, watching her spiral live to an audience of bored strangers with nothing better to do than cheer on a digital train wreck. Then she said the line that finally detonated the nuke. "I'm done hiding. Next weekend, I'm going to that family barbecue and telling everyone what really happened on that trip." Yep. She decided to confront the entire extended family at Grandma's annual backyard barbecue. And that's exactly what she did. She showed up in a neon pink dress, stilettos sinking into the grass, sunglasses big enough to hide half her face. Everyone else was wearing t-shirts and flip-flops, sipping lemonade. Emily strutted in like she was about to host the Met Gala. She didn't even wait for the hot dogs to finish grilling before she made her grand speech. "I know there've been rumors," she announced, standing on the deck like she was running for office. "So let me clear the air. Yes, I was the life of the vacation. Yes, things got heated. But I'm not going to apologize for living loudly." She kept going. Talked about how she was bullied, misunderstood, and betrayed. And then she started crying. Like, full-on sobbing. The ugly kind. And the worst part? Everyone just stood there, chewing their burgers and blinking. Not a single person clapped. Or nodded. Or spoke. Until Aunt Cheryl asked, "Are you okay, hon?" Emily ran off crying. Slipped on the wet grass, twisted her ankle, and had to be driven home by Uncle Joe. Her mascara ran down both cheeks like tire tracks. Someone did film it. It's probably out there on TikTok somewhere under "Barbecue Meltdown Girl." She didn't come out of her room for 2 days after that. And when she did, she was different. Not better. Just cracked in a new way. But what she did next, that made everything before feel like a warm-up. And yeah, it involved a lie so big, it almost broke our entire family apart. After the barbecue disaster, something shifted in Emily. She disappeared into her room for a solid 48 hours. No screaming, no dramatic exits, not even the usual thump of bad pop music vibrating through the walls. Just silence. It would have been peaceful if it didn't feel so wrong. We all knew her quiet was never stillness. It was planning. When she finally emerged, she looked like a shadow of herself. No makeup, no perfectly styled hair, just messy sweats and a hoodie that wasn't even hers. It was mine. The one I thought I lost last year. Of course. She always took things without asking and wore them like she owned the world. She didn't say a word that day. Not to Mom. Not to Dad. Not to me. She just came downstairs, poured herself some cereal at 3 in the afternoon, and went back up before the spoon even touched her mouth. The next day, it started. Quietly. With a phone call. My grandma called my mom, voice shaking. Not angry. Just confused. She said someone had told her I was in trouble. That I had stolen money from Emily. That I had been making up lies about her ever since we were kids because I was jealous of how special she was. At first, we thought it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Grandma had heard wrong. Maybe someone else was stirring the pot. But then more calls came in. From cousins. From an old neighbor. Even from a teacher we both had in middle school. Emily had gone on a full-scale campaign. She told everyone that I had stolen her credit card. That I had crashed my own car and blamed it on her. That I was emotionally abusive. Manipulative. Controlling. She even made up stories about me, spreading rumors about family members in high school. Some of the things she said were so bizarre they bordered on surreal. Like the lie that I had faked being allergic to strawberries just to ruin her birthday cake when we were 10. I do not even dislike strawberries. She just made that up. But here is the thing about lies. If you tell enough of them, loud enough, to people who only see snapshots of your life, they start to wonder. They start to question what they thought they knew. My phone started buzzing nonstop. Messages like, "Are you okay, and did you really say that about Emily, and I am sure it is a misunderstanding, but..." All of it weighed down on me like a second skin. I felt like I was drowning in other people's confusion. And she sat upstairs posting inspirational quotes about forgiveness and healing. The real gut punch came when she posted a long message on social media, tagged half the family, and ended it with, "Sometimes your own blood is the most toxic." That broke something in Mom. She called a family meeting. The kind we never have. Chairs pulled into the living room, no phones allowed, doors shut. It felt like an intervention. And in a way, it was. Mom stood in front of us with a folder. Not a metaphorical one. A literal folder. Inside were printed emails, credit card application records, the tow report from the car accident, and screenshots of every lie Emily had told. She laid them out on the coffee table like a courtroom exhibit. "You are going to sit here and tell us every reason you said these things," Mom said, her voice calm but cold. "Because I am done protecting someone who throws fire at her own family." Emily crossed her arms. Rolled her eyes. Then she started crying. But nobody flinched. Nobody moved to comfort her. Dad just said, "You better start talking." She tried to pivot. Said she was overwhelmed. Said we never cared about her. Said she was lashing out because she felt invisible. But she never apologized. Not once. I remember sitting there, heart hammering, hands gripping the couch cushion, watching her twist her way around responsibility like it was a puzzle to be solved rather than a mess she created. Eventually, she stood up and shouted, "Fine, you all win. I am the bad guy. Is that what you want?" No one answered. Because at that point, we all knew. It was not about winning. It was about finally seeing her clearly. And we did. After the living room confrontation, Emily didn't speak to any of us for days. Not even one of her signature eye rolls in the hallway. It was like she evaporated into silence, trying to guilt us into coming to her door. But no one did. Mom refused to even say her name. Dad buried himself in work. And me. I slept for 12 hours straight and felt like I had finally exhaled after years of walking on glass. Then on a Wednesday morning, just as the house was adjusting to this strange but welcome peace, she announced she was moving out. She came downstairs dragging 2 overstuffed bags behind her, the wheels squeaking and clothes falling out from the zipper teeth like guts. No goodbye, no explanation, just, "I need to be around people who support my growth." Mom didn't flinch. Dad said, "Good luck." I sipped my tea like it was the best morning of my life. We thought it was over. She told us she was going to stay with a friend from college. Said she got a job offer at some nonprofit in the city. We didn't care enough to press for details. Honestly, the only emotion in the house that week was relief. Like we had all been living under a leaking roof and someone finally fixed it. But 2 weeks later, the trap snapped shut. We were having dinner, quiet, calm, normal, when Dad got a phone call. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something in him must have nudged him toward it. His face changed almost instantly. His jaw tightened, and he kept saying, "No, that's not possible. No, she wouldn't." Turns out, Emily hadn't gone to the city. She had been staying in a motel across town. And she had been telling people, strangers, family friends, and even local organizations, that she'd been kicked out of our house. Not just kicked out. Abused. Neglected. Emotionally manipulated to the point of having nowhere else to go. She applied to a temporary housing program. A program meant for actual displaced women in crisis. Told them she was escaping a toxic household. Named my parents directly in her report. We only found out because someone at the program ran a standard background check and found no evidence of anything she claimed. When they called to verify some of her documents, they got my dad's number instead of hers. That was when everything came crashing down again. Dad was in shock. Mom just stared out the window for a long time like she was trying to understand how her own daughter had become a stranger. And me? I wasn't shocked at all. I was angry. Not even at what she did, but at how easy it was for her to do it. At how quickly she weaponized real systems built to help actual people. How quickly she played victim again. We tried calling her. She didn't pick up. She blocked all of us. Later that night, she posted on Instagram, "Healing isn't linear. Some of us have to break away from family to find ourselves. If they make you feel small, it's okay to walk away." And that was it. She walked away. But not quietly. Not without throwing one last match behind her. And while the program dropped her once they figured out the truth, the stain remained. The questions from friends. The awkward texts from extended relatives. The long silence from people who weren't sure who to believe. She poisoned the well on her way out. But what she didn't expect was how we stopped drinking from it. It had been 2 full months since Emily disappeared into whatever version of freedom she had invented for herself. The house felt like a sanctuary for the first time in years. No slammed doors. No mascara-streaked monologues. No frantic whispers about how unfair life was to someone who'd never done a day's worth of accountability. Mom started gardening again. Dad picked up his old guitar. I went back to sleeping without grinding my teeth. It was like we were all regrowing skin after a burn. We didn't talk about her. Not because we were pretending she didn't exist, but because we were done bleeding for someone who only saw us as background noise in her personal tragedy. But like clockwork, Emily made her way back. It started with a text to Mom. Just 4 words, "Can I come over?" No apology. No explanation. Just the entitlement of someone who thought time and silence erased destruction. Mom didn't respond. Instead, she showed me the text like it was a dead mouse on the porch. She was done being baited. Then Emily messaged Dad. Same message. Same tone. Same attempt to slither in without doing the work. He blocked her. That's when the gift started arriving. Little boxes left on the porch. A scented candle. A photo of us as kids in a dollar store frame. A notebook filled with half-written letters that were clearly meant to look sincere but read like Tumblr posts from 2011. She was trying to manufacture her redemption arc. I could feel it in every word. She thought if she cried the right way, offered enough sentimental garbage, we'd break. That we'd crumble like we always used to. But we didn't. Then came the voicemail. She sent it to all of us in a group message. Her voice was slow, broken in all the right places. A performance she had perfected. She said she missed us. That she realized she wasn't in a good place and was dealing with trauma from years of being misunderstood. She said she forgave us. Let that sink in. She forgave us. I listened to it once, then deleted it. I didn't need to hear my own villainization wrapped in fake empathy. But Mom didn't delete hers. She listened to it twice, then went outside and finally threw away the box of Emily's childhood keepsakes she had always refused to let go of. The ballet shoes. The birthday cards. The crayon drawings. All of it. Gone. She didn't say a word while she did it. We had all changed. And Emily couldn't recognize that. She still thought she was the sun and we were planets in her orbit, waiting to be warmed again. But we weren't. We were light years away now. She didn't have that pull anymore. One night, she showed up in person. Parked outside the house, engine running. I saw the car from my bedroom window and froze for a moment. I waited. Watched. She didn't knock. Didn't get out. Just sat there. 20 minutes. Maybe more. Then she left. No one said a word. We didn't need to. She was looking for the version of us who would chase her down, beg her to come inside, pretend the last year hadn't happened. But we weren't those people anymore. And deep down, she knew it. Because 2 days later, she posted a quote on social media, "Sometimes the worst thing your family can do is stop needing you." She was right. We stopped needing her. And somehow, that was the one thing she couldn't forgive. If you had asked me years ago what rock bottom looked like for Emily, I'd have said something like crashing her car or failing out of school or getting caught in another one of her dramatic lies. But those things were just plot points in the soap opera she made of her life. They weren't rock bottom. Not really. This was. About a month after her quiet drive-by, we stopped hearing anything. No texts. No gifts. No vague social media posts dripping with passive aggression. It was like she'd finally accepted the silence we had given her. At first, we were relieved. But then came a phone call from a blocked number at midnight. I don't usually answer blocked numbers. But something told me I should. It was a woman. Said she was the manager of a local grocery store in a rundown strip mall across town. She asked if I was related to Emily. My chest tightened. Apparently, Emily had been working there for the past few weeks. Under a fake last name. No ID on file. She had listed our address on her emergency contact form, which was the only reason the woman had found me. The call wasn't about her job, though. It was about her collapse. Emily had fainted in the back room while restocking shelves. She hadn't eaten all day. She was severely dehydrated. They'd called an ambulance, and she was taken to the ER. Alone. I told the manager that I wasn't sure if anyone would come. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just didn't know what role we were expected to play anymore. I let Mom and Dad know. Neither of them said much. Mom sat in silence, hands folded in her lap. Dad just whispered, "I knew something like this would happen." But we didn't go to the hospital. She stayed there for 2 days. No visitors. No flowers. No dramatic family reunion scene like she might have imagined in her head. Eventually, she was discharged. She went back to that motel. Alone. And this time, she stayed gone. The gossip train slowed. The relatives stopped asking. People moved on. It was like she became a shadow in her own life. No big exits. No curtain calls. We found out later that she had been couch surfing before the motel. That she'd lied about job offers, been kicked out by at least 2 friends, and was behind on multiple credit card payments. The Instagram stories had all been smoke and mirrors. One of her old friends messaged me a few weeks later. Said Emily had burned through every bridge she had. Borrowed money, made promises, and then vanished when things got tough. Sounded familiar. And I know what you're probably thinking. Did we ever reach out? Did we ever forgive? Let me be honest with you. We didn't reach out. And forgiveness. That's a long road. We had tried to be a safety net for someone who mistook it for a trampoline. Who weaponized kindness. Who thought every consequence was persecution. Who thought love meant unconditional tolerance for cruelty. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to stop letting the wound reopen. We didn't wish her harm. We never did. But we also didn't chase her down again. That door. It wasn't slammed shut. We just stopped standing in the doorway. It's strange how peace doesn't always arrive like fireworks or applause. Sometimes it just seeps in quietly, almost unnoticed, filling the spaces that once held so much noise. That's what happened after Emily was gone. No final fight. No dramatic goodbye. Just an absence that grew louder in its silence. For the first time in years, our home didn't feel like it was tiptoeing around a tantrum. We had dinners where no one stormed off. Sundays spent reading or gardening instead of putting out emotional fires. There was no more holding our breath when a message dinged. No more wondering who she'd turn on next. We grieved in small ways. Mom cried one morning while folding laundry. Not for the daughter who left, but for the daughter she thought she had. The one she tried to believe was still buried somewhere underneath all that chaos. Dad took longer to let it show. He was quieter. More thoughtful. He cleaned out the garage one weekend and threw away boxes he had kept for years, things Emily had made in school, old birthday cards, broken photo frames. He didn't say a word about it. Just kept sweeping. And me? I stopped waiting for her apology. I think for a long time I clung to the fantasy that one day she'd show up on the doorstep, finally honest. Finally humble. Finally ready to own the pain she caused. But that day never came. And the truth is, I don't think it ever will. People like Emily aren't wired that way. Their reality bends around their own reflection. And if you stand in the way, they'll break you just to keep the illusion alive. But here's what I learned. You can love someone and still walk away. You can hope the best for them and still choose to protect yourself. You can wish for their healing without offering yourself up as the sacrifice. Emily didn't ruin just a vacation. She didn't just lie or act selfish. She tore through the trust of an entire family like a tornado, loud, reckless, and always expecting someone else to clean up after the wreckage. But eventually, the cleanup ends. Eventually, the people who were always picking up the pieces stop answering the phone. The last time I heard from her was a message she sent months later. It was short. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to say I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. No specifics. No ownership. Just vague enough to be safe. Just careful enough to feel empty. I didn't respond. Because I was doing well. Really well. And I wasn't about to let a single thread of that old chaos unravel everything I had stitched back together. Emily might circle back again one day. That's what people like her do when the world gets quiet and the spotlight fades. But next time, I won't be waiting. I won't be wondering. I won't be hoping. I'll be living. And that's the part of the story she never understood. We weren't jealous of her. We were just exhausted by her. And when she finally left, we got our lives back. Not perfect. Not easy. But real. And real was all we ever wanted.